I remember the night everything changed. The night trust turned into something sharp and cold. My sister, Alara, sat on my futon wearing my college sweatshirt. She looked like she belonged anywhere she wanted. I showed her the project I had spent 3 years building. An algorithm linking food access to community health outcomes. She leaned close, eyes bright with admiration that felt real. "This could change lives," she whispered. For a moment, I believed we were finally on the same side. I explained every detail, proud and naive. When she left the next morning, she hugged me tight. She said she was proud of me. 4 days later, my files were gone. The research, the models, the proof vanished. My professors called it carelessness. My fellowship was suspended. My reputation shattered in a single meeting. They said I lacked discipline. They said ambition had made me reckless. I knew better. She had taken everything. When the university published her groundbreaking study, I recognized my own words. Every line, every formula, every color on the charts. Her photo was on the cover, smiling beside the title that once belonged to me. I printed it and stared until my hands stopped shaking. No one believed me. Not my department, not my father, not even myself for a while. So I created a folder named Evidence. Every article, every timestamp, every shadow of what she stole. I promised myself one day it would matter. When I confronted my father, he called it a misunderstanding. He said families don't accuse each other. He said forgiveness was more powerful than proof. But forgiveness doesn't rebuild a career. It doesn't erase a lie carved in public record. Alara rose fast. She became a star in the medical field. I watched her interviews online, her smile polished and empty. She quoted my theories word for word. And everyone called her brilliant. I started over in Portland, far from their world. I took any job that paid, rebuilt piece by piece. Nights, I worked alone with spreadsheets and silence. I learned to see patterns others missed. Deception always leaves fingerprints. 2 years later, at a data conference, I met someone who noticed. Elias, a forensic analyst with calm eyes and steady logic. He saw through the pauses when I told my story. He said theft like that never happens once. He was right. Together we found trails hidden in tax forms, false credentials, financial noise. Every path led back to her name, and mine beside it. Alara wasn't just stealing ideas anymore. She was using my identity, signing my name on papers I never saw. Her brilliance was a house built from stolen bones, and I was the ghost she buried underneath it. I thought I could ignore it, but ghosts don't stay quiet forever. Not when the truth still breathes. The first message came on a gray afternoon. An email from someone I didn't know. She said her name was Claire Winters, a nurse at St. Vincent's Hospital. She wrote that she had worked with Dr. Alara Monroe last year. Her words were careful, like stepping through broken glass. She said there had been a dosage mistake. A 7-year-old boy. 3 weeks in a coma. She said the hospital buried it. That Alara's family helped make it disappear. She attached documents I could barely open without shaking. Medical charts, signatures, timestamps, erased reports. The truth looked clinical and horrifying in black and white. I sat there for an hour, staring at the screen. This wasn't about jealousy anymore. This was a pattern of harm disguised as success. I called Elias that night. He came over with his laptop and quiet focus. We spent hours cross-checking everything. The records were real. So were the deleted files and hidden corrections. The cover-up was perfect, except for the data trail. Numbers never lie. He found financial transfers matching the incident dates. Money moving through the Monroe Foundation. My name appeared again. Used for consulting payments I never received. A fake history, written in digits and forged signatures. I felt sick. They had stolen not just my work, but my identity. They used me as their shield. Elias looked at me and said, "They've been laundering through you." I couldn't breathe for a moment. All those years of silence suddenly made sense. The taxes, the strange letters, the rejections from grants. Every system had quietly believed their version of me. We dug deeper. 8 years of forged forms. $3 million rooted through charity fronts. Every line signed with my name. My father's signature appeared too. The man who once said he valued truth above all. He had built his legacy on falsehoods and my stolen identity. I printed the ledgers, one by one, until the printer smoked. The air in the room felt heavy, like old grief turning into resolve. Elias asked what I wanted to do next. I told him the only thing that made sense. Expose them where they least expect it. The wedding invitation still sat on my desk. Gold, perfect, poisonous. I picked it up and stared at the embossed letters again. Dr. Alara Monroe and Nathan Cross. The date shimmered beneath the chandelier light. This wasn't just an event. It was a stage. The perfect stage. I started organizing the files into sequences. Timelines. Screenshots. Transactions. Evidence that spoke louder than memory. Elias built backups in 3 encrypted drives. We rehearsed what to say, when to reveal it. It wasn't vengeance anymore. It was correction. For every lie written in my name, I would bring the truth. And this time, they couldn't erase it. The night before the wedding, I couldn't sleep. The rain drummed against the hotel window like a warning. Elias sat at the table, arranging files into neat stacks. Each document was a wound turned into evidence. We rehearsed every word until silence felt sharper than speech. He asked if I was ready. I said I didn't know, but I had to be. The cobalt dress hung by the door, smooth and defiant. It wasn't fashion anymore, it was armor. At midnight, my phone buzzed. A voicemail from a number I once knew too well. My stepmother, Evelyn. Her voice was syrup over glass. "We're thrilled you're coming tomorrow," she said. "We should have breakfast before the rehearsal." I deleted it before she finished. Elias looked up from the screen. "She's fishing for information," he said. "Let her starve," I replied. We returned to the plan. Every file was backed up to multiple drives. Every timeline printed, encoded by color. If they tried to bury the truth again, it would still rise. He mapped the seating chart for the reception. We marked where I'd stand, where the screens would light. This wasn't about spectacle, it was structure. Truth needs strategy. By 2 a.m., my hands finally stopped shaking. I watched the city lights blur through the rain. 11 years of exile condensed into one decision. Forgiveness was never the goal. Clarity was. At dawn, Elias brewed coffee while I checked the backups. He said, "They might try to talk you down." "They can talk." I said, "But I have data." He smiled faintly, the kind that meant belief, not comfort. As the morning brightened, we packed the drives into his briefcase. Everything labeled, everything ready. We left the hotel at 9. Seattle looked washed clean, but I knew better. I stared out the window as the Fairmont Regency came into view. The same building that once defined their world. Now it would witness its collapse. In the car, Elias reached for my hand. "You're not doing this alone," he said. I nodded, but part of me knew this was mine to finish. The parking lot shimmered with luxury cars and umbrellas. Perfect people walking into their perfect illusion. We waited until the crowd settled. Then I breathed in and whispered, "Let's end this." Inside, the air smelled like champagne and secrets. I walked toward the ballroom doors. My heels clicked against marble in a rhythm that felt final. No music, no nerves, just purpose. Behind me, Elias adjusted the projector case. Everything we needed was in there. The evidence, the truth, the years they tried to erase. I touched the envelope in my purse one last time. The invitation that started it all. Then I let it fall into the trash by the door. This time, I wasn't the guest. I was the reckoning. The ballroom glittered like a shrine to denial. Crystal light spilled across white linen and gold accents. I walked in quietly, but silence followed me like a shadow. Heads turned, whispers rippled, memories reassembled. Evelyn froze first, her smile faltering mid-sip. Her champagne glass trembled, but her mask stayed intact. She leaned toward my father, murmuring something sharp. He looked up, pale, startled, pretending composure. Then Alara appeared. White silk, perfect hair, and the confidence of a woman unchallenged. "Sister," she said, arms wide, her tone rehearsed. I let her embrace me, felt her hands shake against my back. "Congratulations," I said. She smiled too fast. Nathan stood behind her, unease flickering in his eyes. He recognized me instantly. 3 years ago, he dismissed my research with a smirk. Now the smirk was gone. "Miss Monroe," I said evenly. "We've met before." His jaw tightened, words fumbling. Alara jumped in, her laughter thin. "My sister works in data analytics now." "Data integrity," I corrected. It echoed louder than I intended. Evelyn appeared beside us, her lipstick too red, her smile too polished. "So lovely you could join us," she said. Her gaze scanned me like a security camera. "What is it you do again?" "I look for patterns," I said. "Fraud leaves them everywhere." Elias arrived then, calm and deliberate. He shook her hand politely. "Financial forensics," he said. "We both work with numbers." For the first time, Evelyn's eyes flickered. My father hovered near the bar, drink trembling in his hand. "You look successful," he said, voice thin. "Not as successful as Alara," I replied. His silence confirmed everything. The band started to play, the sound sterile and strained. Dinner was announced. We were seated far from the head table, but with a perfect view. Alara kept glancing our way, her smile cracking at the edges. Her fiancé leaned in, whispering urgently. Her hands clenched around her napkin. I waited for the right moment. The toasts began. Alara's mentor rose, glass raised high. "I've watched Dr. Monroe revolutionize community nutrition," he said. My stomach turned, but my voice stayed steady. I stood, chair scraping the floor. "I'd love to hear more about that project," I said. "Especially since I designed it before it vanished from my drive." The room stilled. Every head turned. I lifted my tablet and tapped the screen once. 2 documents appeared side by side. Identical words, identical graphs, my work under her name. Gasps filled the air. Nathan stood abruptly. "I was afraid of this," he said quietly. The crowd erupted in murmurs. Evelyn's face drained of color. My father dropped his glass. Alara's voice cracked, pleading, denying, unraveling. But the evidence glowed brighter than her excuses. After 11 years, the silence was broken. Truth stood tall, wearing my name again. The headlines arrived before the sun did. Prominent doctors, wedding collapses amid plagiarism scandal. My name wasn't in the title, but everyone knew. By morning, Alara's empire began to crumble. Nathan withdrew his funding. Her hospital suspended her. My inbox overflowed with questions I didn't answer. I sat by the window, coffee gone cold, watching rain stain the glass. Elias read the articles in silence beside me. "They're calling for a full investigation," he said. "It's only the beginning." I nodded, but my chest ached with something heavier than relief. My phone rang again, an unfamiliar number. I let it ring. Then came a voicemail. My father's voice, brittle and angry. "What you've done to your sister is unforgivable," he said. "You've destroyed this family." Elias met my eyes. "Classic deflection," he murmured. I archived the message and labeled it evidence. A new email arrived from the Medical Ethics Board. They had received my documentation. A formal review had begun. Alara's license was under scrutiny. I read the lines twice, steady and slow. "They're taking it seriously," Elias said. Finally, 3 days later, every healthcare blog carried the story. Whistleblower reports. Forgery. Negligence. Claire's files had reached the public. The boy she harmed had a name now. No one could erase him again. I didn't feel joy. Just gravity. The kind that pulls everything false back to the ground. The IRS notice came next. An audit of the Monroe Foundation. 7 years under review. I scrolled to the final paragraph and stopped breathing. This notice confirms that Amelia Rhodes bears no liability. My name cleared at last. The sound I made was half laugh, half exhale. Elias closed his laptop and poured more coffee. "You did it," he said. "No," I said quietly. "The truth did." That afternoon, the doorbell rang. He checked the camera and frowned. "It's Evelyn," he said. "Alone." I told him to let her in. She looked smaller than I remembered. Her hair perfectly styled, but her eyes hollow. "You've ruined everything," she said. "Your father might face charges. Alara's career is gone." "I didn't ruin it," I said. "I just stopped protecting it." She called it cruelty. I called it consequence. "You could withdraw your statement," she pleaded. "Tell them you were mistaken." I opened the door again. "I didn't make a mistake," I said. "The truth doesn't ask for permission." She stared at me like seeing a stranger. Then she left without a word. The rain started again outside, soft and relentless. Elias touched my shoulder gently. "You okay?" I nodded. For the first time in 11 years, I meant it. The storm wasn't over. But it was mine now. The hearing room was colder than I expected. 5 board members sat behind a long wooden table. Their eyes calm, clinical, unreadable. I clutched the folder that had lived with me for years. My story reduced to charts, timestamps, and signatures. When they called my name, my legs didn't shake. I walked forward and set the evidence down. I spoke the way Elias taught me to. Short sentences. Clean facts. No emotion. Emotion is easy to dismiss. Data is not. I described the stolen research, the forged consulting payments, the false tax filings, every number connected to her name and mine. They listened in silence. One of them nodded slowly, taking notes. When I finished, Claire took the seat beside me. Her voice trembled only once. She told them about the child who never fully recovered, about the records Alara had altered, about the pressure to keep quiet. Then Nathan entered unexpectedly. His presence drew a ripple through the room. He confirmed what we already knew. Alara's credentials didn't match the records. Her rotations, her grants, her citations, all false. When she finally appeared, she looked smaller than her legend. Her white coat replaced by a plain gray suit. She tried to smile, but it cracked halfway. She said I was jealous. She said I wanted to ruin her. But the documents on the table spoke louder. Every line of code she stole. Every signature she forged. Every life she put at risk. After a short deliberation, the verdict came. Her medical license was suspended indefinitely. The air felt heavy, final, irreversible. She looked at me once, eyes hollow, lips trembling. I expected anger. Instead, I saw recognition. She finally understood what she had built on sand. The board thanked us for our testimony. I walked out into the hallway with Claire and Nathan. None of us spoke for a long time. Outside, the rain had stopped. The city lights reflected on the wet pavement like new glass. Elias waited near the entrance, his smile quiet and proud. It's over, he said. Almost, I replied. Some truths don't end, they settle. Months later, the newspapers printed their final headline. Former doctor found guilty of falsifying records. My name wasn't mentioned this time either. That was exactly how I wanted it. I went back to Portland. To work that finally felt clean. Claire joined me at the community center. We built something real from the wreckage. Every class, every chart, every line of data. All honest. All ours. Sometimes I still dream of the courtroom lights. The weight of silence before the truth arrives. But in the morning, I wake without fear. The past no longer owns my name. Only the record does. And the record never lies. A year later, the city feels lighter. The headlines have faded, but the truth remains. I run a small program for community nutrition. The same idea that started everything. Children laugh in classrooms where data meets hope. Claire oversees ethics workshops at the new clinic. Elias still teases me about labeling my files too perfectly. We build quietly now, without noise or performance. My father called once, voice tired, full of regret. He said he found an old photo of me at a science fair. He said he should have believed me. I told him I stopped needing that years ago. Forgiveness isn't the same as trust. And trust can't exist without truth. Alara disappeared from the city's whispers. Some say she moved south, others say she vanished. I don't search for her anymore. The cobalt blazer still hangs in my office. A reminder that courage isn't loud, it's consistent. Today, an envelope arrived on my desk. An invitation to speak at the Fairmont Conference on Ethics. The same hotel where everything once broke. I smiled and whispered to myself, data doesn't lie. And neither do I.